Excuse me, sir. Could you possibly tell me what you think of the records that are coming out nowadays? Well, sir, it's like this. I think there's an awful lot of Republican trash being printed nowadays. But as I have said myself on many occasions, if it's worth doing at all, it's worth doing. So I just give them a hand, I think, with this one. 1, 2, 3.
So it's here and up your arsenal, and a Georgie best to you. There's not a team in the whole wide world like the Crumlin Kangaroos. In Crumlin Road Gaol, all the prisoners one day. A game of football they did have, but the rules did not obey. For while all the wardens watched there, the passing of the ball,
one of the bloody football teams went up and over the wall.
So it's here and up your arsenal, and a Georgie best to you. There's not a team in the whole wide world like the Crumlin Kangaroos. The wardens
For as long as we have had a British occupation in Ireland, we have had, of course, political prisoners. And for as long as we've had political prisoners, we have had attempted escapes and successful escapes. And today is the 50th anniversary of one such escape. It is an escape that's been named and nicknamed the Crumlin Road Kangaroos. And with me this evening, I have one of those men who was on that escape, and he's Christy Keenan. Christy, welcome to this programme. Can I just ask you a question for those that wouldn't know geographically, maybe wouldn't know Belfast very well? This area that you came from and come from now, Short Strand, a notorious area, a notoriously strong Republican area. At the period you're talking about your arrest, this area had just about survived the onslaught of a substantial attack to wipe it out.
Well, that's true. I was arrested and put in the jail in November 1971. But in the year prior to that, our area, which is known as St Matthew's and Ballymacarran, was targeted by the loyalist population that surrounds the area. The area is a small area in East Belfast, sits on the side of the River Lagan, of about 2,500, maybe 3,000 people. It's very tight. It's very geographically determined. There are borders, there are walls, fences all around to keep us in, but it doesn't keep the loyalists out. And at that time, 27th of June 1970, after a band parade, all hell was let loose from all angles, all sides into the Short Strand, Ballymacarran area. There was casualties on both sides, and it lasted for over 24 hours, full scale. There was no break in between. There was no chance of people trying to get themselves together, get women and children out or anything. It was just 24 hours, full scale. British Army couldn't do anything because the RUC wouldn't give them permission. The RUC refused when they were approached in the police station. Point blank, they refused point blank to get any of their men in any danger.
To help defend the area? So what age were you at that stage?
I was November 1970. I just turned 21.
So you're a 21-year-old in the Short Strand.
Married with 2 kids.
2 children, a tiny area, taking on what the British Army say is the finest in the British Army, the Paratrooper Regiment. Did you have military training? What skills, apart from courage, which of course it would take, what skills did you have to engage the British Army?
Well, at that in the early days like that, you really didn't have any skills other than your commitment and your youth, the fire that's in your blood. When you're young, at that time, you feel you're invincible, and you can just do anything when you're called upon. And in circumstances like that, where it is a day-to-day death a situation scenario in the Short Strand, at that time, you were just prepared and willing to do whatever was needed. I joined the IRA, and I knew that would be part of the role there to defend the district. But it was also to take the war to the British. They were patrolling our area. The Black Watch were particularly vicious in their sectarian chants and the abuse that the kids got and young girls got, particularly young girls from the Black Watch, was really cringeworthy. It was probably the one thing on its own that would have drove you to taking some physical action, even if you hadn't joined the IRA.
Just to resist.
Yes, just.
Can I bring it forward slightly? You're a 21-year-old. You have 2 children. You're in court. You're charged with a serious, substantial charge. You're ultimately sentenced. What was that sentence?
Well, I was given 7 years for possession with intent, and 3 years for each of the other charges. Gathering intelligence, possession of ammunition, possession of explosive material, possession of a weapon. I got 3 years for all of that, and membership of the IRA, I got 3 years. But that was further down the line. Before that happened, you're brought into Crumlin Road prison in the jail where all the remands, political waste, were all gathered. And I have to say, again, there was very few Republicans in prison at that time. And there was no political status. Everybody was treated the same by the screws, the wardens. And thankfully, or not, for me, there was 2 or 3 or 4 of the lads from the short strand already in. So I didn't have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak.
Yeah.
I just fell in behind their guidance and their direction, which turned out to be very good. We all ended up in jail together.
Can I just again paint the picture of this jail so that people understand what was involved in the escape, the amazing escape, I have to say. So it's a Victorian prison. It's heavily fortified. It's guarded both by the British Army and by prison warders. It is built on the lines that a maximum number or a minimum number of prison guards can guard a maximum number of prisons.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go and anywhere you go, you're under close observation. So you arrived into this Victorian prison. There had been previous escapes, but I mean, all of the stuff all the security had been tightened up considerably. So you're in the prison, you've fallen in with former comrades and comrades from the short strand, where you're from. They show you the ropes. Can I ask you if you can recall, because it is quite a while ago, if you can recall, was your frame of mind, Jesus, this is me for many years?
Well, it really wasn't, Joe. Actually, the lads in jail had settled my nerves immediately on arrival, as they had it sussed and they knew the regime. They made it their own, and I enjoyed that endeavour.
How did you do that? Because prisons are repressive, that's why they're called prisons. So was it a battle with the administration?
It was alright. Having said that, there was structure within the prison from the Republican movement. We had our own staff. We had our own orders. We done things our own way, and we looked out for each other. Now the screws knew that. Some of them are very, very bitter, and others was just a day's job, day's work, day's wages, and they weren't too fussed about discipline. So within that, we were able to manipulate the prison system to suit ourselves, which worked out very well. And that was how we were able to organise the escape of the Kangaroos. On remand, you had your friends, and in between your meals, you got some association, which would have been an hour, not every afternoon, but a lot of afternoons. to go out in the B-wing yard, where you could walk about, talk, tell your comrade and stuff, get brought up to speed on the news from the district, from the area, how people were and how they were keeping, how they were managing during the battle with the British Army and the Loyalists continually firing into the district. There was a great deal of, whilst we were in prison at that time, a lot of bombings from Loyalism to kill as many people as they could, obviously.
Sectarian bombs.
These were definitely, yes, sectarian. All focused on the civilian population, particularly in the pubs and the clubs. And every drinking establishment that was there in 1970, every single one of them were blew up by the Loyalists, bar none. Every single establishment, people lost lives. There was one specific bar, Strand bar. It was blew up by the UVF. They had to go past the British Army checkpoint to go and do it, and then to come away from it. There's 5 pensioners killed in that. Modus operandi, the way they done it was open the door, spread the bar with gunfire,
Yeah.
and then rolled the bomb in, closed the door and barred it up from the outside so that nobody could escape. And that was a strong bar.
So in prison, these events, I mean, Republican Belfast was virtually an occupied area where the British Army had observation posts and barracks and all of that. So people, although they were geographically isolated from the area they came from, they still had an understanding of what was going on, what was happening, and it must have been quite anxious, a period when you're away from your family and all these things are taking place outside. Can you recall when the idea of an escape, or was it just automatically assumed that people would try and escape? But can you give us a view of that?
Well, I imagine, and it's difficult to remember exactly, but I imagine at that time, as young people, we'd have been looking to get out. We would have been looking to get out any which way, to get back out, because of the area, and it needed people to help in the defence of it. We were all looking to try and get out. And I was very surprised that after just being on remand for 4 weeks, that the OC of the remands approached me and asked me if I got out, would I report back?
So what does that mean, Christy? Would you go back into the IRA?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
He asked me, would I go back into the struggle? Of course. There's no other answer to give him, of course. He then went, sussed out through intelligence, coming in and out from our area, what my status was in regards to a civilian or a volunteer or a suspended volunteer or whatever. I was a volunteer at that time. One of the other conditions was that I was on charge on my own, which meant that if I get the chance, there's no need to tell anybody else because I was on this.
Yeah.
So
it didn't affect anyone
didn't
else.
affect anybody else. Yeah. And the day picked for the escape was not a day that I would be in court on my weekly remand. And everything fell into place immediately, almost.
Let me ask you this. So you've just arrived into this place, which is, irrespective of the friendships and the comradeship, it's quite daunting. It's a high security prison that even from the outside it looks like something that you wouldn't want to visit unless you really had to. So you're asked then, do you want to escape? Did you say yes right away? Did you say, well, let me think about it, I need to talk to the wife? What was the response?
Well, see, to be quite honest, when he had asked me, and I realised I was only in for 4 weeks, that I want to escape. I thought he was joking, you know, because in jail, nothing is what it seems. So you got a guy asking you, do you want to escape? You have to take it like,
This might be a trick.
it's a game, it's a joke. I'm being set up here for a carry-on, for a mix. And I says, oh, of course, oh, you better believe it, sound, absolutely. Certainly I want to escape like everybody else. So he says, that's dead on. Would you go back till the struggle now if you got out? Oh, certainly not a problem. You know it, you know it. And away he went. And I never gave it another thought until he come back to me a day or two later. He says, well, we're on. We're going. And, well, to say that I was shell-shocked would have been a bit of an understatement, simply because I thought there was more important people within the jail, people who were older than me, some of my friends, some of my comrades from the short Strand, and other people who would have been more effective if they had got out, got released. But it just turned out that it was brought forward because one of our friends from outside was arrested and brought in, and he was facing a murder charge. He came in on the Thursday, and the escape was meant, I was booked in for the Tuesday following.
5 days later?
Yeah.
4 days later?
He came in on Thursday, and 5 days later he's gone over the wall. And that's the sort of stuff that you wanted to be involved in, should you get over the wall or not.
See, this is the things that British media make films about. You know, this is the things that you have to endure every Christmas and every other holiday. So you had agreed to an escape. You didn't know any of the details about the escape, I take it. You didn't know exactly when it was going to happen. Initially, you may have been told. At what stage did somebody say to you, well, really, this is what we're going to do. We're going to run through the gunfire. We're going to climb over a wall. We're going to cut our way through a fence. We're going to maybe get out. So at what stage did you know the madness of this escape?
Well, to be quite honest again, it wasn't a case of anybody sort of glamorising it or romanticising it. It was a straight, almost day's work. This is your job. You're a Republican volunteer. You're in prison. Your duty is to escape, as any POWs do throughout any of the wars. Right. And this is what we're going to do. Now, I only got told that over the weekend prior to the Tuesday escape, and that I actually foolishly said to the OC when he talked about a football match and putting all the escapees on the one team and the lads who were prepared to help on the other team, I actually said to him, OC, I can't play football. He sort of looked at me like, was I joking? Was I slagging him that I could never kicked the ball in my life?
So tell me this. He shook his head and went, have we made the right choice? So
what have I done here?
On the Monday night, the night before the escape, you know it's on for Tuesday.
Yep.
I suppose it's a stupid question to ask you. Did you sleep? Did you have 1,000 things going through your head? You know?
Honestly, I can't remember. Honestly, I can't remember.
That's fine.
I just know that I never gave it a thought until we were getting ready for the football match, and we were sort of talking among each other, but not saying anything, you know. But we were nervous. I was nervous, but having said all of that, when we got out onto the football pitch and the two teams started actually playing football, all of the anxiety lifted. Just everybody got playing the football. And we were told that round about 11 o'clock, to our left, the wall leads out into Landscape Terrace. There will be a rope ladder thrown over. So you just make your way to the rope ladder. Somebody will shout, let us know. And that's exactly what happened.
But let me, before we get to the rope ladder part, because this is an amazing story. I want to ask you 2 questions. First of all, any good escape is as good as the logistical support that's outside the walls or outside the prison. Mm-hmm. Had you any idea what was going on outside? No, it was just the rope ladder, that's what you watched for?
Yep.
So again, I want to just paint up a picture for those people who wouldn't know the geographics of the prison. So there are 2 sets of Republican prisoners playing a bogus football match. There are watchtowers, there are prison warders on the ground, there are people with British soldiers with guns in the vicinity, if not in the immediate vicinity. And the idea is that this entire team, at the blowing of a whistle, all run in the opposite direction to where the match is going. That they take their time and one by one they scale the wall. So I know you weren't looking at the prison warders, you were looking at the rope ladder. Did you ever realise, or did you ever get to know what they thought was going on?
Well, I have to say, and you just mentioned there, the organisational capabilities on the outside. The operation was put forward by a remand prisoner who had been in remand for a long time, and he had contact with his own comrades outside who were all from the first Dandy town.
Yeah.
When it all came together, we realised as we were driving away in the car, our escape, the amount, just there in that spot, as you're getting into the car, didn't realise all of these cars were going to be here. Mm-hmm. We had a full set of clothes set in each car for each escapee who got in. The driver, particularly of the car that I was in, was very calm, very cool. Take your time, lads, no rush. Take that football gear off, put that clothes on, and we'll just drive away. That's exactly what we done, and we were in the middle of a large street called Landscape Terrace, a big gardened street at the side of the jail, and we were standing out in the middle of the road. It was raining a bit, stripping off our clothes and putting on these other clothes.
You know, sometimes you say about a big heart and all of that. So and this is for my own benefit. So there's a rope ladder just before you get into these cars.
Yeah.
I couldn't have held on to the rope ladder. I'd have been that nervous. Was it just like, and you're away?
Oh, you're away. I think an automatic sense takes over. Your adrenaline starting to run. And actually, when the whistle blew and we knew the rope ladder was there, we all headed towards the rope ladder. In the first instant, we had to run across a ploughed field in November, with the rain and all had touched for it. We were running across this. And it was coming up to halfway up your shins, and you were pulling your leg out trying to get running, and it was just the lead weight on your feet, but you overcome it anyway, and you're on towards the ladder. The bottom of the ladder, on our side there was a screw, and one of the other team ran up the screw and attacked him. Don't know what with, but he ended up getting stitches and stuff. As we came to the wall, big, large, 30-foot high, stone wall, the rope ladder was there was already a few on it, and I started to climb it. And I just happened to look across the wall to my right, and there was another rope ladder, which nobody was going there. They all seen this rope ladder, and the rope ladder, the other rope ladder was thrown over, and it was thrown over just where there were big garden sheds. So it was blocked from view.
Yeah.
Right? And we climbed up and over the wall and then slid down the rope until the wee alleyway. And it must be said, and I didn't know this until later years, I was informed that there was an armed volunteer straddling the top of the wall in case any interference from the British Army. So it wasn't haphazard. It was one of the most detailed and well executed escapes. Everybody who was meant to get out, got out, bar one. But that's a story for another day.
You're out, you're in the cars, you're making your way, and I know you can't give me a whole lot of details, but you end up in Tyrone, is that right?
Omagh.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Omagh. County Tyrone, yeah. But so what do you end up?
Oh, there's a whole load of stuff in between.
Of course, and I don't want to go into those details, but somebody told me you were dressed as a member of the religious order.
That came the second day, the second night. Our initial safe house was in North Belfast, and we were just left with a family, a young married couple like myself with a few kids, and there were 4 of us left in that house with this family. We were treated so well and so unselfishly. It's hard to put into words. They feared nothing. They could have been arrested themselves and put into prison and done maybe bigger time for aiding and abetting than we might have ended up getting. But we stayed there until the next day, and the local OC from the area we were in came to the house and told us, the 4 of us, to be getting ready, get sorted. We were heading out, and they broke us into 2 groups of 2, myself and Danny Mullen, God rest him.
God rest him, indeed.
And the other 2 lads, me and Danny went together in the first car. And you can rest assured, North Belfast was crawling with the enemy, with the British Army, the RUC and the UDR. They were all over the place, and we managed to get through. And we actually went to Crumlin Road. There's a chapel there.
There is.
And we were asked to sit in the chapel until we were contacted.
That must have been the last time you were in a chapel.
No. I've been to a couple of weddings, I have to say. We sat, there wasn't a sinner in the chapel, and it was the atmosphere there then, in my opinion, it just sort of changed. You had time to sit, peace and quiet, and reflect on what you've just been involved in.
Absolutely.
And if you're looking me to say that I was anxious the first night, or I was nervous the night before the escape, and all of that, that's where it kicked in that chapel. And myself and Danny were sitting, and we never looked or talked to each other. We just sat as if we were 2 boys lost. And we heard the back door, the front door opening behind us, and the both of us looked around, and there seemed to be this tall man with a cap and an overcoat on. Not obviously a working class individual, but somebody maybe with a bit of authority. He looked all around the place, and then he walked up the centre aisle to the altar, still looking around, coming back down again, and he had spotted us from the minute he came in, but he was still looking about, looking around him, and away on out he went. Didn't say any prayers, didn't do any sort of Catholic stuff like genuflecting or anything. And I think me and Danny realised that's a branchman. Somebody has seen us coming in here, seen a wee bit of it.
And your heart must have dropped.
Well,
For God's sake, you were going to say there. For God's sake.
For God's sake.
Yeah.
We decided there and then, almost telepathically, to go out and see where your man went. We didn't see him. Now, he went out that door about 10 seconds before us, and he was away. Thankfully, as we were standing there, our lift came into the forecourt of the chapel, and the lad who had met us that morning from North Belfast was in this car. with a lady driver and a couple of kids. Again, families, again, our own families, families of our helpers, supporters, they're all coming out on the front line to help us get away. Without them, you couldn't do anything, absolutely nothing. But when we got into the car and pulled out, as we were pulling out, Saracens were pulling in. And it's just like that. We were going out, they were
coming in. Can I tell you just what you wouldn't have saw? The atmosphere in working class, nationalist, Republican, Catholic areas, not in Belfast, not in the north, but in Ireland. People were beginning to write songs about the escape. People were telling jokes about the escape. People were glorifying it. People were telling stories about it. People were saying they knew who had got out. They were their best friend. Even if they weren't, they were their best friend. So the lift that the community had that was under siege by an occupation of the British Army was amazing. So you're on the move. You're heading.
We're heading out of Belfast. Still, we are being led. We can't. We had no say in any of this. We were being led by the powers that be outside, who organised everything to the nth degree. We had a couple of close calls as regards checkpoints and stuff, and we eventually got to our safe house for that night, and it was the monastery
In Portland.
at Port Glenone. It was a Cistercian monastery. That's where the monks were, the black and the white. We got into the forecourt again of that, and the lady got out, went to the front door and rapped on the front door. And she continually rapped for about 10 or 15 minutes. It was so, Mama, get out of here, we're in the wrong place, we're driven the wrong, Mama, get out of here. And she got back and she says, they're not answering. And the OC of the area where we had just come from, give me a chance. He went, rapped the door and they lifted a wee slide, and they answered him immediately. It was part of their rules, no conf with women, female.
Oh, right.
We didn't realise that, but at the same time, there you have it. You know, that was a wee thing that's
So simple.
Aye, and it could have got all of us caught again. And priest, administrator, not one of the monks, one of the priests, took us in hand and walked us through the grounds, which were massive, through the grounds in pitch black to the spot where we were going to spend the night. And that was in a small office like this, control room for the 3,500 chicks that they were rearing.
Chicks as in chickens.
Yeah, as in chickens. And he sat us down. We got a big feed. We got washed, cleaned, new clothes. Actually, priest clothes. A lot of people say about the monks, but it wasn't the monks' cowl and stuff. It was priest clothes, right to the very underwear. You had the long-legged underpants there. Very well organised. I mean, it's hard to explain, but you just let yourself go into their protection guidance.
Can I say this? I've known you since we were both young men, a long time ago. I always thought that you would end up in some kind of religious order. I wasn't sure how you were going to end up in it, but I always had that suspicion. You had a priestly look about you.
I tried it for a while.
Yeah.
It didn't agree with me.
So, this is your disguise. You're on the way. You spend the night in comfort and food and good friends.
Can I tell you a story?
Absolutely, please do.
A light-hearted story. On the night that we were in the control room for this massive, long shed, low-lying roof where these chicks all were, they had like a big shop window, and whoever would do this from the monks, they would stand and look at them, and how they fed them was up and down. There was a trough, and it was worked from in the office. You never ever had to go out to the 3,000 chicks, and it was operated from there. Turn a switch and it slowly turned like a corkscrew and brought the meal round them all. And they had background music for the chicks, and he had a dimmer switch for the volume there, and he also had a dimmer switch for the light in there. So everything was all modern, well, and had a couple of yarns among each other, and the four of us started to sort our bedding out, you know, a couple of blankets, sleeping bag, and said goodnight to the priest, and he went on his merry way, and our light was on. And one of us was going to get up and turn it off so we could get asleep. Now these are, if you go by the British publicity that was thrown about, these were four hard, murderous, terrorist dogs living here that had escaped.
I think the expression used was committed terrorists. I think that's how you were described.
Okay. And as we were sort of bedding down, going to turn the light out, somebody says, F's sake, there's a mouse. And the four of us, like these big grown men with families and stuff, all stood up. And each of us all said, where is it? Where'd it go? How did it get out? Is it still there? Check it and see. No, you check it and see. This mouse would have sat in the palm of your hand. It was more afraid of us than we were of it.
And it done what the British government, the British Army couldn't do. Put the fear of God in us.
The four of us ended up sleeping, sort of sitting upright, and our mouths shut.
Your hands over your ears.
I was saying, like, Ball commented on that and said if the British government had called in there, they'd have slapped us and sent us home to our mummies.
They didn't need prison warders, and they didn't.
No, well, a couple of
nights would have kept going.
The
adventure ends with your arrest.
Sort of. We could call it Noma. We drove from Portglen, the priest drove the car, and me and Danny were in this particular car. There was two or three other cars that were scouting for us, and there was another car with two of the other lads in it, and we were spread out in the traffic going from Portglen till Omagh. At Omagh we came to traffic lights, and just by chance the car in front of us was the car with the other two boys in. And the car in front of them was one of the scout cars. And that should not have happened, you know, so we all sort of spaced out. We were sitting, me and Danny in the car. I was in the front seat, Danny was in the back seat with a monk. And we seen coming around from the right hand side, going past us, was a convoy of British Army lorries with British Army personnel jammed into them, and we were, there you go, they're away looking for us. They're away now to trap us somewhere.
Or to search somewhere.
As we're talking, in that respect, the lights are going green. Two or three policemen just stood out in front of our car with weapons drawn. A Sergeant Busby. And he says, right lads,
You're arrested.
Your time's up. And you wanted to say to the priest, drive. I probably did. Donnie maybe shouting it as well, drive. He didn't, he just, that's us caught into the barracks, which was round to the right at the junction.
And how were you treated there?
Well, again, the branch again, who nearly caught us at one of the barriers, they arrived. There was a screw in the court at Omagh. I brought some prisoners from the Crum to Omagh to be charged or remanded, and he was asked to come over and see if he could identify anybody among the 4 or 5 of us that were there, the monks, the priest and me and Danny. and he pointed me and Danny out, and he actually gave one of the monks a bit of a tossing. For no reason. Now these people had nothing to do with that. They were not aware of what we were at. The monks just assumed we were novices, and we were going on to another monastery, I think in Rossington.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that basically is it. We were put into the cell, a cell each, and it was, although the monastery we were in was like 18th century castle stuff, this jail that we were put in the back of the barracks was exactly the same. Really no lighting, hard board to sit on, and there was a track in it for your toilet needs. And it sort of, the one I was in, it had the trap for the stuff all to go into, and whoever was up in that direction
Just came right down.
just come on down. They shouted up the, I'm not going to say a name.
I noticed your shirt, and I have to make, we're out of time, and I have to make, and I never got a word in edgeways with you,
I doubt it.
but we have to make reference. The escape caught the imagination. It inspired men and women. It helped the resistance. It fortified the struggle. The song, by the way, I think reached #1 in the Irish folk charts of the Crumlin Kangaroos.
Good taste, you see.
Good taste, good men. So it is the 50th anniversary. You still look the same age as you looked 50 years ago. That's not true, but I thought it's good actually
That's
to
nice.
say that.
That's nice.
Just to say it. Looking back at all those years, and you had many adventures in between, I have to say, your commitment.
Do you want me to sing it?
No, please don't. Your commitment to republicanism, to change, is it as strong now as what it was then?
No, I have to say.
You're a weakened man.
No, I have to say it's stronger. I have to say it is definitely fucking stronger. We're not rolling now, are we?
Yeah.
We still are.
Yeah.
No, well, fair enough, it's stronger. Without a doubt, and I've reared a family of Republicans, Gaelgoers, every one of them, and my influence is on through to my grandchildren and my wife. We're just a strong Republican family from the Short Strand, as is hundreds of families within the Short Strand, and the thousands upon thousands of families in Belfast.
Christy Keenan, undaunted, unbroken, and as funny as ever.
Unbelievable.
Parabéns, my agad.
Falter Road. Have you got that jack sign?